Hi friends. So you may have seen the title of this video and been confused. Kevin, you might say, you literally have a video series called Arguments Against the Veridicality or Truthfulness of the Catholic Church. And yeah, I do. Fair enough. I'm not Catholic, at least I'm not a practicing one, but that doesn't mean that I can't recognize that there are some things that the church does very well. The first thing that comes to my mind is community. I grew up in a traditionalist Catholic community, and something that the Trides seem to be extra good at is community. When I was 10, my family had a house fire. Our house had to be demolished because not enough of it survived the fire, and we lost most of our possessions, though I did actually save that blue guitar back there. That was my very first guitar. I'm the second oldest of 4 kids, and I was 10 when the fire happened. So you can imagine my parents having 4 kids ages 5 to 12 not having a home. I was young enough that I thought it was fun and exciting. I got to sleep over at my cousin's house for the first week, but my parents must have been terrified. But the traditionalist Catholic community that I grew up in sprang into action. Every day for a long time, someone swung by with something, whether it was food or clothes. Secondhand clothes are like a staple of any Tride community, or even music. I'll never forget that some folks in our community came together and got each of my siblings a Walkman. I think I'm dating myself a little bit here, with an album or 2 each. There are some albums, some Bon Jovi, some Linkin Park, and some Beatles that will always have a special place in my heart because they were the only albums that I had for a little while. So those particular albums were on repeat. And sure, communities like this aren't exclusive to the traditionalist Catholic community. I imagine that any community that is somewhat set apart from broader society is similar. So Mormons, the Amish, perhaps some group of immigrants that all move from one place to another, like you can think about the Irish or the Italians a couple generations ago in New York City, etc. But these communities seem to be rare, especially among the mostly European Americans who lived in northern New Jersey, where I grew up. Without traditional Catholicism, I suspect that the vast majority of those who attended the FSSP chapel that my grandparents founded would not have had a community at all. No man is an island, and the church knows this and builds community very well, particularly Tride communities. The second thing is culture. I attended the Sistine Chapel exhibit a few months ago when it came to Cincinnati. Catholic art from the 1500s, like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, is unmistakable and iconic. Sure, art is subjective, but I remember growing up traditionalist Catholic and being proud of the culture that brought Michelangelo to the world in the Sistine Chapel and the countless other artists across mediums. Like, for instance, even Mozart wrote over 60 pieces of liturgical music in the 1700s. In some ways, I feel like I lost my culture when I decided that I no longer accepted the philosophical positions of the Catholic Church. And that's a shame, isn't it? I had to lose culture because I could not believe in certain first-order philosophical positions. Why should my position on nominalism or realism dictate whether or not I can participate or claim in as my own the culture in which I grew up? Why should my take on Mariology dictate this? I'd be very happy to see the Catholic Church move away from the first-order philosophical positions and more into the world of culture. Sometimes I respond this way when somebody asks me, hey, what would it take to bring you back to the Catholic Church? Though, if I'm being honest, this is probably more of an example of the Catholic Church coming back to me rather than me going back to the church. But regardless, I wish that this was the case, and this is one of the goals of my channel, to promote the adoption of Catholic culture without the adoption of the first-order philosophical principles. If nobody starts this movement, it will never happen. So maybe I am a hopeless optimist or romantic, but here I am. As an aside, I'm into tattoos. I have a sleeve in progress, and this current sleeve is all my favorite books. I currently have tattoos featuring books from Tolkien, Brandon Sanderson, Lovecraft. I'm getting a Robert Jordan tattoo soon. But I'm saving my right arm for what I want to be a religious tattoo sleeve. I think it would be really cool to do a sleeve of Our Lady, just the different apparitions. The church that I grew up in has beautiful stained glass windows, and I think it would be super cool to do like a stained glass window apparition of Our Lady tattoo sleeve. I would give a couple apparitions to my artist, let my artist kind of handle the rest, but I think that would be a fun way to pay homage to the culture that I grew up in my own way. Lastly, at least for this video, I want to mention the intellectual tradition of the Catholic Church. And yes, I have my disagreements with certain intellectual positions of the church, particularly on dogma. See Conversations with Catholics, episode 1 for an in-depth discussion on the matter. But I wanted to make sure that I included the intellectuals of the Catholic Church in my things that I love about the church video. The world of philosophy was changed forever by the likes of Augustine and Aquinas. The university is largely a Catholic invention. It sprang from the Abbey. Speaking of abbeys, an abbey is where genetics was born with Gregor Mendel. The Big Bang Theory was invented first by a Catholic priest. And of course, I'm only scratching the surface here. But I wanted to make sure that I included the intellectual tradition as my way of saying that even though I do disagree with the church on various positions, I greatly respect the Catholic individuals who contributed so much to the intellectual tradition of the human species. So everybody, thanks for listening. Catholics, tell me your favorite things about the Catholic Church. Maybe I missed something. Ex-Catholics, tell me if you think that I'm wrong. And Catholics, if you think that there's something that should have been on this list that wasn't, leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time.